Don't just listen. Don't just listen. Do. I'm not just talking. So you know, I'm not just talking. I'm doing. And I don't want you to just listen. Put this information to work. Make today count. Every day.
Now, this much I can say. When you go and work out, you're going to feel better. You will get energy from working out. That is a guarantee. If you go work out, you're going to feel better. If you go break a sweat, you're going to feel better. You're going to get more energy from it. And look, you got to go really, really hard to where now you feel more tired when you're done. And even that, I mean, you got to go psycho. I'll do that occasionally, but I don't do that on a daily basis. You know, at the end of a day, if I wake up, lift, run, surf, and then I do jiu-jitsu in the afternoon, like at the end of that day, I'm tired and I feel tired. But normal day, working out just makes you feel better. It definitely gives me energy. Like day one, you get out there, you're going on an 80-pound ruck march, and the first freaking 17 minutes, the first 23 minutes just suck. They just suck.
Why is it that intelligent people procrastinate? Why is it that people that are so self-motivated often self-sabotage? And why is it that no matter how many new business opportunities we get or new skills we try to learn, many of us just are simply finding different ways of earning the same amount of money or achieving the same kind of level of success, as if there was kind of a glass ceiling above our head that we were trying to break through but didn't know how. Now, one thing we do know is it's not down to lack of resources or opportunity. We live in a time in history where there are more resources and opportunity than ever before. In fact, there's many people that have access to resources and opportunity that really never get the bat off the shoulder and take a swing at life. And the results are mediocre or disappointing. And then there's other people, those who have access to virtually no resources or no opportunity, and against all of the odds went out and created magic for the rest of us to go, wow, and stand in awe of. People like Colonel Sanders, who retired broke at 65 before starting KFC. Obviously Oprah, people like Helen Keller, or even Albert Einstein, who dropped out of school at 15 and then failed the entrance exam for the Zurich Polytechnic. No. You see, if you want a masterclass in taking away the excuse that resources and opportunity are the reason why you're not successful, go study any of the lives of the people on screen. You see, as human beings, our nervous system is hardwired for comfort, whereas the essence of what makes us, some would say our soul, is hardwired for growth. And it's managing that dynamic tension between how good a comfort zone feels and the innate calling of our potential that lies outside of that causes the frustration for most people and keeps them on that hamster wheel of mediocrity. So how do we unravel that? Well, let's look at the human brain. See, what separates us from almost all of the animal kingdom, the crowning achievement of human biology, is the front part of the brain, what's known as the neocortex or the frontal lobe. And that neocortex operates at a brain wavelength of alpha or beta. And one of the challenges is that doesn't get turned on until we're about 7 years old. What happens when we drill down on that? Why is that important to why we procrastinate or self-sabotage? Well, I'll give you an example. Let's say it's Dad's turn to take little Johnny shopping and the kids. And, Mom's busy that day and he's kind of frustrated. He's got to go out and get the job done. And, one thing you need to know about Dad, he's got his own stuff to deal with right now. He's figuring out how to pay the credit card bill that was higher this month than he thought. He's worried about whether the boss is going to be downsizing soon. And he's still reeling from the lack of intimacy that morning caused by a fight that he had with his wife. He's dealing with the stuff as we all do. Now, little Johnny doesn't live in that world. And so when they get to the checkout, as every good retail psychologist knows, they place the products at the eye height of the people you're trying to sell to. And so Johnny sees the toys and Johnny wants a toy and he's like, Daddy, can I have a toy? And Daddy comes out of his mind fog and says, no, you can't have a toy. For a start, he doesn't think he can afford it, but now's just not the time. But as parents will understand, children are prime examples of the ability to be persistent, are they not? And so little Johnny says, Daddy, I want a toy. please can I have a toy? See, little Johnny doesn't live in a world of credit card debt. And in his frustration on dealing with his stuff and trying to handle the kids and all the other stuff, Daddy snaps out and says, listen, you can't have a toy, you don't deserve it, you're not good enough, you're not behaved enough today. And Daddy thinks that'll just keep him quiet while he goes back to dealing with his big world problems. But what's happening right now is quite significant. You see, little Johnny doesn't hear Dad's frustration. All Johnny hears is that I'm not good enough, I'm not worth it, and I'm undeserving. And probably spends a large part of the rest of his life unconsciously acting out that behavior to justify why he's right, including self-sabotaging if the threat of success comes along to challenge that inner model of the world. You see, when it comes to being able to work with psychology, and after thousands of hours of working with people all over the world, I've come to know that the undisputed first law in psychotherapeutic intervention and other areas, the undisputed first law of personal growth is this: that people will never rise above the opinion of themselves. Now, one of the challenges, that opinion is largely formed in our childhood years, sub 7, from the perception of where we think we did or didn't get love from the people we most wanted it from. It also mirrors the first law of relationships, which I firmly believe states that no one can ever love us more than we love ourselves. Now, one of the other challenges on that is that we are also creatures of habit. Now, what does that mean? That means that prefrontal cortex, that neocortex, that frontal lobe that serves all of that executive decision making, is prime real estate. In fact, the brain weighs 1/50th of the body weight, but takes up 20% of all of the calories. So when it comes to using that frontal lobe, evolution has some shortcuts. It says, well, clearly you're using intelligence to make the decision, so it should be a good decision. So when you choose the fries instead of the salad, it doesn't care, its job is to adapt. And if you make that decision over and over again, then rather than take up critical thinking, which is meant to serve you intelligently, it hands it over to the midbrain. And it becomes an unconscious behavior or pattern, or what we also call a habit. See, now you order the fries just because it's what you do. You don't even question it. Now that can be very useful when it comes to learning, or not learning how to have to walk every day, but it also sets up some challenges. You see, we suddenly arrive at work on our day off, and we don't know why. Or, we suddenly get home and realize, where did the last 2 kilometers or 2 miles of driving go? Wow, how did I avoid all of the crazies? But the deeper challenge to that, as creatures of habit, is the fact that we're using our conscious brain only a small amount of the time, that critical decision making. The rest of the time, like 95% of the time, is what I call people sleeping awake. In fact, I'll give you an analogy. Why do you imagine that the conscious mind is an ant? Here he is, cute little fella. Ants are industrious, they're hardworking, they're determined, they're gonna get the job done. This is your conscious mind. In fact, this particular ant went to a personal development seminar last week. He set his goals, and he's marching north confidently in the direction of his achievements. The problem is, he's marching over the back of an elephant that's heading south. Our unconscious mind, with all of our limiting patterns, limiting beliefs, and all of the other unresolved self-issues that go on there. And we start to see why we self-sabotage. See, how do you get that elephant moving in the right direction? Well, let me give you another example, another analogy. The mind is like a compass needle. In fact, it can only point in one direction at a time. But when we're operating from our ants, that 5% of the time where we're conscious and using free will, we can grab that compass needle and we can point it anywhere. That's what free will allows us to do. And if we're feeling down, we can go choose to watch a comedy or call a friend who can cheer us up. And if we're feeling low on energy, we can go put the kettle on and make ourselves a coffee or a drink. But 95% of the time, we're not doing that. And as soon as we let our hand off of that compass needle consciously, it will always drift back to its default magnetic north, which unfortunately for most people is more negative than positive. See? And that leads us to our third challenge. And that is something you may want to really tattoo on the inside of your eyelids. And that is that environment trumps will. What do I mean by that? I mean that our intention will always be beaten by our environment over time.
Thank you for making it through the video. Please like, share, and subscribe.